I didn't move to Sable Ridge to find peace. I moved there to disappear. After 17 years of war reporting, from Syria to South Sudan, I no longer recognized the man in the mirror. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw faces I couldn't save, places torn apart, sounds that never left. I needed quiet. When I found the listing online, it was so vague it felt suspicious. Quiet farmhouse, cheap rent, long-term stay available. Sable Ridge, PA, no photos, just a number. I called anyway. The man who answered didn't ask my name. He just listed rules in a cracked, paper-dry voice. No pets, no guests, cash only. Don't ask about the attic. I thought he was joking. I laughed. He didn't, but I said yes. A week later, I packed what little life I had left, a typewriter, some notebooks, a few clothes, and the anti-anxiety pills I couldn't live without, and drove north. The town was smaller than I expected. A diner, a gas station, a church with broken windows, and about 9 visible houses. An old wooden sign at the entrance read, Sable Ridge, a good place to rest. It didn't feel welcoming. It felt final. The farmhouse was hidden at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by trees so tall they blocked the sun. The house itself was 2 stories, paint peeling like dead skin, windows so dusty they looked blind. The silence was unlike anything I'd ever heard, not peaceful, not serene, but suffocating, like something was holding its breath. The first night, I laid on the old creaky bed and stared at the ceiling for hours. At 2:37 a.m., I heard it. Tap, 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 from upstairs. I froze. Then again. Tap, tap, tap. I told myself it was the house settling. Old wood, drafty windows, that's all. But the next morning, I found a circle of stones behind the house, half buried and covered in moss. Too perfect to be accidental. I thought it might have been an old fire pit or garden, but it felt off. I tried calling the landlord. The number was dead. So I walked into the town diner. Just one waitress there, older, grey hair, kind face. Her name tag said Janie. I asked her casually, you know anything about the house at the end of Ridge Road? She stopped pouring coffee. You moved into the Hewitt place. I nodded. She stared at me for a moment, then whispered, people don't stay there long. I forced a chuckle. Why? Bad plumbing? She didn't smile. Some places remember pain, and they don't like being disturbed. That night, I tried writing. For the first time in years, the words came. I wrote for pages straight. Then the lights flickered, then died. I grabbed my flashlight and climbed into the attic to check the fuse box. The door groaned open like it hadn't been touched in decades. The air was cold, colder than the rest of the house. The fuses were fine, but I found something else, an old leather trunk in the corner. I opened it. Inside were letters, tied in string, a photo of a man, woman, and 2 children, all smiling stiffly, a doll with a cracked porcelain face and what looked like dried mud, or something worse, around its eyes. The last letter, dated October 19, 1965, ended with a single sentence written in shaky ink, you were never meant to wake it. I didn't sleep, not because of what I saw, but because the house wouldn't let me. The tapping returned, but this time it came from the other side of my bedroom door. Tap, tap, tap. I sat in the dark, too afraid to move, too ashamed to admit I might finally be losing my mind. But the morning came, and when the sun hit the window, everything looked normal again. I convinced myself it was all in my head. But when I passed the mirror in the hallway, for the briefest second, I saw something behind me, a figure, standing, watching, gone in a blink. I turned so fast I almost slipped. Nothing there, just empty hallway, empty house. I recorded in my journal, day 3. Silence is no longer peaceful. It's aware. Later that day, I returned to the stone circle and stood inside it. Nothing happened. But when I stepped out, I could swear I heard whispering in the trees. That night, I dreamed of a woman standing at the foot of my bed. She didn't move. She didn't speak. Her eyes were black, not hollow, just wrong. I woke up drenched in sweat. I checked every door and window, all locked, but the front door, the heavy iron latch, was slightly ajar. I know I locked it. I remember locking it. But that night, something unlocked it. I didn't sleep again. The house felt colder, not in temperature, in presence, as if it had shifted, as if it knew I was awake. I sat in the kitchen, waiting for the sun, holding a flashlight and the doll I found in the attic. I don't know why I took it with me. Maybe part of me wanted proof I wasn't imagining this. But then, at exactly 3 a.m., I heard a whisper. Just one word. My name. Soft. Direct. From behind me. When I turned around, no one was there, but the doll in my hand was smiling. I didn't sleep after the cassette arrived. I placed it on the table and just stared at it, unsure whether it was a threat, a warning, or both. The house had already begun to shift, to speak, to move around me. I knew it wasn't just creaks and drafts anymore. It was patterns, pulses, timed events, like something was watching not just my movements, but my thoughts. I waited until midnight before placing the tape into my old recorder. It hissed to life, no music, just the sound of breathing. Then a voice, male, shaking. If you're hearing this, it means you've lasted longer than I did. My name is Reverend Aldwin. I lived in Sable Ridge in 1964. I came to bless the Hewitt house after 3 children disappeared. The town called it cursed, but no one really understood. They thought it was a ghost story, a warning for drunk kids. They didn't realize the land itself was feeding. This house, this ridge, this hollow, it's not haunted. It's hollowed, carved out. It's a wound in the world. I made the mistake of staying too long, of trying to map the circle. Every night, I dreamed of doors beneath the soil, and voices begging to be remembered. Then one day, the dream stopped. That's when I knew it had taken part of me. The tape clicked off. I replayed it 3 times. Something about his voice, it wasn't just fear, it was regret. That morning, I finally crossed the creek again, this time with purpose. I followed a trail of child-sized footprints deeper into the Blackroot Hollow than before. There, I found a stone altar, half collapsed, overgrown with vines. Etched into its side were symbols I didn't recognize, loops, spirals, jagged shapes like thorns. But at the center was a handprint, small, burned into the rock. I placed my own hand over it. The ground beneath me trembled, and a low hum passed through the forest. I ran. I didn't stop until the house was in view. I noticed the windows had all fogged over, every single one, and on the inside, written in perfect lines across the fog, one word repeated again and again, remember. That night, the doll returned. This time, it was in my bed. I threw it into the fireplace, watched it burn. It screamed. Not the doll, the sound came from behind the walls. Then silence. I collapsed to the floor, heart hammering, unsure whether I had just destroyed something evil or provoked it. The next morning, the house felt colder than ever. My journal pages had been torn out and rearranged across the living room wall, spelling words I hadn't written. You broke the seal. I went to the attic and saw that the trunk was open again. Inside it was something new, a human tooth, yellowed and cracked, and a child's nightgown, stained with something dark. I packed my bags, decided to leave. I didn't care if I got my deposit back. But when I turned the ignition of my truck, nothing. Battery dead. I checked my phone. No signal. I walked to town, 2 miles. But when I reached the diner, it was closed. Abandoned. Cobwebs on the door. Chairs flipped. No cars. No people. Nothing. It was like time had erased the town. I stood in the middle of the road, shouting. But my voice just echoed, unheard. That's when I saw them, the children. 4 of them, standing in a line at the end of the street. All barefoot, all staring, all silent. I turned back toward the woods, toward the house, the only place that was still real. I made a decision. If this thing, this force, needed to be fed, I was going to find its mouth and seal it shut. I returned to the circle of stones behind the house, dug deep, past the rocks, past the roots, until I struck something hard. A hatch, metal, cold. I pried it open. Beneath it, stairs, carved from earth, leading down. I lit my last candle and descended. The air thickened. The walls closed in. The sound of breathing returned, but not mine. Deeper, hungrier. I reached a chamber, round, wide, carved like a womb. The floor was soft, not dirt, not stone, flesh, and in the center, an eye. Massive, closed, pulsing, beating like a heart. I froze. Something whispered behind me. Remember. The eye opened. It saw me. It knew me. It showed me things. My past, my guilt, my fears, my memories twisted into visions. My parents' faces melting into strangers. The wars I covered folding into children's laughter cut short. It was feeding on my mind, my trauma. I screamed, but no sound came. I moved to run, but the ground reached up, pulling me in. I felt my thoughts stretch, unravel, forget themselves. I saw the faces of the children. I saw Elias Hewitt. I saw Reverend Aldwin. I saw myself, not as I was, but as something hollowed, empty, forgotten. Then, light. I awoke in my bed. Morning. Birds chirping. Sunlight clean and warm. My bag packed. My truck running. My phone fully charged. As if nothing had happened. As if it was all a dream. But I knew better. I drove. I drove past the town, which now looked alive again. Janie waved from the diner. The church had no broken windows. It was all back. Restored. Erased. But inside me, something was missing. I couldn't remember my own name. I couldn't remember why I had come. All I had was a scar across my chest, shaped like an eye, and a note in my pocket that read, in my own handwriting, "Do not return. You're part of it now." And as I looked in the mirror at the next gas station, I noticed something else. My reflection was smiling, but I wasn't.